Wow. I did not know that. So you're saying within 6 minutes of something being launched
Yep.
towards us,
Right.
we make a decision whether we're responding and sending one at them or not.
Yes. So think about it this way. When if it just takes approximately 30 minutes, the concept that has been put into play over decades of strategy of how to fight a nuclear war is that the president must make a counterattack decision before those nukes land. So this is all going to happen without the public ever having any idea, okay? The reason is because no one ever thought of having a nuclear war where there's like one nuclear missile. The rogue launch off of Garwin's worry is how my scenario starts. And then you see all these things go wrong. The war-fighting concepts of nuclear war were built with like, Russia's going to send 1,000 missiles. The mother lode, it's often called. And so a strategy kicks in called use them or lose them. Very simple to understand, right? If we don't use them, we're going to lose them to the Russian incoming missiles. And so that's why the president is positioned to make a counterstrike within a window of time before the missiles hit.
So basically, they have 6 minutes. Why is the number 6 minutes?
So, okay, 30 minutes is the nuclear launch gets detected in, let's say, 150 seconds.
So we got 2.5 minutes gone
Right?
automatically.
Gone. Everybody's now getting ready to prepare the president. At the same time, the long-range ground radar systems that are going to give that secondary confirmation, which exist in multiple places around the world. I write about them quickly in the book. In this scenario, if the missile's coming from North Korea, it's going to be the ground station in Alaska. They have this massive radar. I have a picture of it in the book. It's like 5 stories tall. It's just sitting there waiting to see over the horizon. That will happen at 8 or 9 minutes. In the meantime, they have to get ready to brief the president. People I have interviewed had to brief the president when we had false alarms, okay? So it's like really this intense, suddenly everything is the decision tree unfolds in this radical way. And while the individual leaders, the STRATCOM commander, the SecDef, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, are getting ready to brief the president, they're waiting on the secondary confirmation. But once the president is told, so there is it's called the red clock is running. And that clock in the strategic command headquarters is ticking down until the missile's going to strike, in this case, Washington, D.C. Now they have to get the blue clock running. The blue clock is the counterattack, okay? So you send General Hyten, another former STRATCOM commander, during the fire and fury rhetoric of Trump, did an interview with Barbara Starr from CNN, and she asked him directly about this. Like, what do we do if they launch at us? And Hyten said, if they launch 1 missile, we launch 1. If they launch 2, we launch 2. But if you dig a little bit deeper, as I did, and it's all sourced in the book, when you're reading, if you ever wonder, how does she know this? You can go to the back and you can see the notes of the documents where it comes from. So the deeper digging revealed that if North Korea launches 1 missile at us, we're going to launch 82 in response.
82?
82.
I mean, seems a little excessive.
It's called escalate to de-escalate.
When you look at the size of Korea. But, would it take, how many missiles would it take to just completely obliterate Korea?
82.
It would actually take 82 missiles.
No, you're absolutely right. But there is a sense of overkill, literally and figuratively. And you know this from your operating days, that it's like go big or go home. I mean, the idea, there's a concept with the president that was explained to me by one of the President Obama's national security advisors named John Wolfthal, who sat in the room with the president when this was being negotiated. Okay, so there's a policy in the United States called launch on warning, and this exists. Okay, which this is the idea. This is the president has the authority that if the missiles are coming, he launches. We launch on warning. We do not wait until we are hit. And Wolfthal explained to me that what that has to do with what's called a damage limitation responsibility. Okay, everything has like a term that is difficult to come out of the mouth. It's why they have acronyms for them. But this is pointing to your why do we have to launch 82 questions? So the president now has a responsibility to limit further damage. That's what his military is telling him. So a strike with a 1 megaton thermonuclear weapon against Washington, D.C. that I describe, it kills 2 million people, Shawn. That never mind that the things are about to really take off. It destroys the beating heart of American governance. That is like, the response is 82 nuclear weapons. The damage limitation responsibility, because all the military stratcom is thinking at that point is you're going to let another nuke come in. And so the 82, we learn from the scientists and the analysts who have spent a lot of time looking at this, is how to limit the damage. 82 nuclear weapons could possibly take out, not just like turn the entire country into a furnace, but obliterate their nuclear command and control, their ability to launch more nuclear weapons. That's why that is set up that way.
Man, I would think 82 nuclear missiles I would think the flash alone would be enough to wipe out the entire country.
It would kill tens of millions of people, not a question. But and the book was read after it was written, before it went into production and publication, by many of my sources and by people who actually were not my sources, but who ran these scenarios for NORAD, generals I'm talking about. People who were not in the book, so they didn't have a horse in the race that they could say to me, you're wrong about this, this is too... And there were some tweaks that I did, but that was not one of them. No one said, that's too many. We wouldn't do that.
How many, do you have any idea how many nuclear weapons we have? How many?
So, on ready for launch status, meaning they're forward deployed, meaning they can be launched in seconds or minutes from the president's order. Seconds or minutes. We have 1,770. The numbers change a little bit every year. Russia has 1,674. That says nothing about the thousands more in storage that we have ready to, that could be pulled out. So we have approximately 5,000 each. Why do we need that many nuclear weapons? You must be asking yourself.
We need that many because they have that many. And they need that many because we have that many.
And guess what the number was at the all-time high, which was in 1986?
10,000.
70,000.
70,000? Wow.
And so the setup of the book, it's like 50 pages or something. It's like how we got here. I explain how America sort of had this insane buildup of nuclear weapons during the 1950s. There was one point in 1957, this bomb went off in 1952, and the military-industrial complex just went ba-ba-ba-boom, right? At one point, we were building, on average, 5 nuclear weapons a day. A day. And then you're building the weapon. That's just the bombs, the warheads. You're building weapons systems because we have a triad. We don't just have the ICBMs in the silos in the ground. We have nuclear-armed, nuclear-powered submarines. outfitted with submarine-launched ballistic missiles. And then we also have the bombers. So we have a triad. But during the Cold War, we were shooting tactical nuclear weapons out of cannons. Billy Wall was halo jumping a hand-carried portable nuclear weapon out of an airplane in case we needed to use it on the battlefield.
How do you, I know you don't like to give your opinion, and if you don't want to, that's okay. How do you feel about having, like, 1,000, what did you say, 1,160?
1,770 us.
1,770. How do you think we need that?
That's an opinion I think that I own, which is absolutely not. Look, my lane is as an investigative journalist, reporting the facts, doing the interviews, and setting them down on the record. But of course, you get to have an opinion at some point. Mm-hmm. Certainly when times have changed. We are back in the original buildup. It was us and Russia and then China in the early 60s. Now there are 9 nuclear-armed nations, many of which are in direct conflict with one another. All of the new technology, artificial intelligence, this is crazy. It's like the United Nations Secretary General recently said we are one misunderstanding, one miscalculation away from nuclear Armageddon. Mm-hmm. And he said we must reverse course, and we must. So I was in Brussels talking about my book because people were interested in it. What I learned is because they said to me, and these are disarmament groups, right? They said to me, your book condenses in a really dramatic, terrifying way what we have been trying to convey to world leaders for decades with a lot of information. And what we're trying to convey is this is madness. So the progress is that we've gone from 70,000 nuclear warheads to there are a total of approximately 12,500 today amongst the 9 nuclear-armed nations. The disarmament people will tell you that's 12,500 too many. Mm-hmm. The United Nations recently created a treaty called, I'm going to mess this up, the IPTNW, the International Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. And their idea is that gradually nations should begin to reduce their arsenals down to zero. Gradually. And so the opinion I would have, which seems like a responsible journalist, that sounds like a really good idea. And the word gradual is important because, okay, so we've been talking about the horrors of nuclear war, but you can also talk to proponents of deterrence, as I do, who will tell you we must have a nuclear arsenal because the bad guys do. Mm-hmm.
That's where I would fall.
Right? And by the way, that's the easier, it really is the easier, quicker conclusion.
I feel like it would be great if there were no nuclear weapons. However, we don't play nicely with one another, right?